Now I'm going to go ahead and talk about trigonometry, Sohcahtoa. So Sohcahtoa stands for the So stands for sine, the C in cos stands for cosine, and the T in Toa stands for tangent. Sohcahtoa on its own is not an actual equation, but it's actually something that you can use to remember. Okay, uh, it's really cool. It's pretty straightforward once you know how to use it. Very handy. A lot of questions in physics, geometry, obviously, uh, calculus, pre-cal, even some engineering courses. They use these equations, so it's just a good idea to know how to go about it. They only work for right triangles. That's another thing you got to keep in mind. So the way you want to go about it is you always want to label your triangle, whether it's in your head or on paper. At first, obviously, do it on paper, and then once you get the hang of it, you pretty much do it in your head. The side across the 90 is always your H. Always. I would recommend that once you have identified, your H, find the angle that they give you. They'll either give you a marking of some kind or an actual number, and I would suggest to trace it. When you trace it, you trace two sides, obviously. One of them will be the H. The other side you trace will automatically be your adjacent side, your A. And the one that's remaining is O. O stands for opposite, so you'll see how it's across from the angle that's given. Let's look at number 1 so I can show you how to decide which one to use. So again, the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and draw a quick little line so that I can identify my hypotenuse. So my hypotenuse here is the 5. So I labeled it with an H. I find my angle that was given. Don't pick the 90. Find the other one. So again, two sides were highlighted. One of them was your hypotenuse. The other one must be A. Which means the remaining side that wasn't highlighted is the O. So everything's labeled now. Now I have to decide which one I'm going to use. Normally I tell my students to write Sohcahtoa on each and every single problem. And so this is what you do. You obviously are solving for x. So, and x is O. So you better use O in it. So automatically ca is out because it doesn't have the letter O on it. You can only have one unknown. You don't know A, but you do know H. So you cannot use A. And I'm left with So. That's the one I'm going to use. So again, here it goes very quickly. The one you know and what you're looking for are O and H. So when you pick the one that has the O and H in it. And the only one is this. Another way you can think of it is which one of these three sides has no information at all, and that is A. So anything that has an A cannot be used. So now that we know that we're going to be using So stands for sine. And it's the sine of theta, where theta is your angle. Okay, theta is just an angle. And in this case, my angle is 20. So again, the sine of 20 degrees is equal to a fraction O over H. So O is currently X, H is 5. And then it's just algebra at this point. If I want to leave X by itself, I would multiply both sides by 5. In this case, if I multiply both sides by 5, I'm in the calculator, I would just have to put 5 times the sine of 20. Okay. Again, multiply both sides by 5, you find out that X is equal to 5 times the sine of 20, which is 1.7. And that's it. This is how you use Sohcahtoa to find unknown sides. Notice how first we label, Then we pick, we substitute, and we solve. That's it. I'm going to go ahead and do a few more examples just so you get the hang of it. So number 2 here, again, first thing we want to do is label. So I find my h, we trace our angle. H, this is the other one that was traced, so this must be A, so that means this is O. Again, if we go ahead and we write Sohcahtoa and we start asking ourselves, what we're going to use, OA is what has information, H has nothing, so I'm going to use TOA. The TOA stands for tangent of angle, fraction, and again, notice, on the other one it was O over H, this one is going to be O over A. That's what that's for. And O, we already know it to be X. I'm just going to put an X here. And A, we already know it to be 10. Should have put the actual numbers instead. So X and 10. So again, we just solve it. We have to multiply, that's it. So it's 10 times the tangent of 30. So we know that X is equal to 5.77. And that's it. All right, let's go on. Here on number 3, I was meaning to put the X here, so let's just go ahead and put an X here. And on this one, this time you're solving for an angle, but everything's going to be done the same way. Again, Sohcahtoa can be used to find a missing side, or it can be used to find an angle in a right triangle. So first, 90, so that's H. Next, we trace our angle. This time, the angle we're looking for. This is A. Obviously, this is O. So now we have to decide whether we're going to use So, Ka, or Toa. Use the same process, guys. Go ahead and tell me what it's going to be. All right. So, right, H and O, there's nothing on A, so this is out. This is out. We're stuck with So again. And we're going to write it exactly the same way. So this becomes the sine of X is equal to, and at all times these are pretty much in parentheses as you see in the calculator, is equal to O over H, so 8 over 15. Now sine is, it's actually a function, so if I want to solve for X, I have to do the inverse, and it's very easy. There's a simple pattern here. Basically, I would just do X is equal to, since I'm doing the sine inverse is literally the sine inverse, and I'm going to use the same fraction. And so when I come and I get my calculator, I'm just going to look for the sine inverse. Depending on what calculator you have, it's going to look like that. Sometimes they just have the letter A in front of it to say arc sine. Just depends what kind of calculator you have. All right, so we find out that the angle X is 32.2 degrees. Notice how my answer is now in degrees. Number 4. On number 4, you're given all 3 sides, and you're being asked to find both angles. So again, first thing first, label your hypotenuse. Next, label the angle that you know. Now on this one, you're looking for both of them, and here's the thing, just pick one. It doesn't matter which one. I'm just going to go ahead and pick this one in the bottom, X. So I'm going to label it. And now that I did that, this has to be my A, and this has to be my O. So again, I'm going to go ahead and now decide which one I'm going to use. So I only know O and A and H. Actually, I know them all. Okay. So again, when you're doing this one, if you're given everything, you get to pick. Since I haven't done Ka yet, I'm going to go ahead and use that one so you guys see how pretty much it is. And again, the reason I could use any of them is because I know all of them. So it's the cosine of the angle, in this case X, is equal to a over h. A is 4, h is 5, and again, x is just the cosine inverse of 4 over 5. So I just come here, and this is a good one to kind of remember. 3, 4, 5 triangles are very common, and it does make your life easier. So we find out that the angle x is basically, I'm going to go ahead and round and just say it's 36.9. And if the angles add up to 180, you don't have to go and do the same thing to angle y, just subtract. So 180 minus 90 minus 36.9. So angle y is 53.1 degrees. All right, and that's how you use Sohcahtoa.